Welcome back. I'm Dan for Twitch Boston /BOBA, and I'm here with Chris. First off, you're with Boston Indies, from what I understand.
That's right.
So go ahead and tell us a little bit about that and what you do with Boston Indies.
Boston Indies is Boston's home for independent games. We've been running a local community here since about 2009. We're a pretty loose group. We do a whole mix of different events. The main ones are things like demo nights, where folks just bring whatever they're working on, and we go hang out, at a brewery or a VFW hall or what have you, and play each other's stuff and give each other feedback and just try to lift each other up and help each other out.
There we go. Now, what's your position with Boston Indies? What do you do a lot of?
We don't really have a strict hierarchy or any kind of defined roles or anything, but I'm sort of the main organizer of things right now, which mostly just means sending a lot of emails to venues and booking places and trying to get people to give us money.
Sure. Now, one thing that we're doing tonight is a Boston Indies event, or at least something that Boston Indies is participating in. Tell us a lot about the event that we're actually at right now. What's going on? What's the importance of this event?
Right. So we're currently at the Boston Game Dev Holiday Party. This is a kind of annual event that we run. So there's a whole bunch of different meetups in the Boston area. So there's Boston Indies, there's Boston Postmortem, which is our local IGDA chapter. It's the International Game Developers Association. So they're a little bit more. I mean, the distinctions are pretty nebulous at this point, but they're a little bit more like AAA, AA focused.
Sure.
There's also Game Audio Boston, who are of course focused on game audio.
Does what it says on the tin.
So most of our events are sort of specific to those groups, but so twice a year we do the holiday party and we do a summer barbecue that are sort of combining forces to get together and run some stuff.
Gotcha.
So it's really just wrapping up the year, a chance to hang out. There's no agenda. People aren't really. Some people did bring games, but we're not explicitly asking people to bring games. There's no lecture. It's just a chance to hang out and catch up.
Gotcha. Now, what is the importance of Boston Indies? Why should an indie developer want to participate in Boston Indies?
Great question. Yeah. We'll back up and I'll tell a little story, right? So
Okay,
I used to work at Warner Brothers. I was at Turbine, which is a studio here in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So I worked on Dungeons & Dragons Online.
Yep.
I got laid off in 2014, and pretty much immediately I went from working at a studio of just about 500 people, and going out to lunch, and we played Foursquare every day in the parking lot.
Absolutely.
And you go from having this huge, tight community to I wanted to do my own thing and make solo indie stuff, and then all of a sudden I was in my apartment by myself making games, basically. I mean, with my wife, but basically alone, right?
Yeah.
8 hours a day at least. And so I started going to indies. I started going to Boston Postmortem and going to all these different groups just to feel, connected to some other people, to be able to bounce ideas off of and talk to people about what I was working on. And I found that incredibly valuable. So I think that's a lot of it, is just creating a place for people who are doing stuff on their own or doing stuff on remote teams, creating a place for those people to get together and hang out. And I think especially now that the industry is in such a... Can I cuss on these things?
I would aim not to,
All right,
because I know the words you're about to say, and I agree with them.
The industry is in a pretty
You can,
rough,
and I can bleep it.
Oh, never mind. You've got approval.
Well, that's okay. We can keep it PG here. The industry's in a pretty rough place right now.
Yes.
I think we all kind of need all the help we can get, and there's also there's a lot of information in the industry that's really hard to come across. Like, how do you, if you've never published a game on Steam, how do you know how to do that? How do you find a publisher contact? How do you know if a contract that you got is fair? A lot of that information, you can't just Google this stuff, right? You have to know people, and that's why it's important for us to have this community and have a place for people to make those connections and be able to help each other out.
Yes. Yeah. So you make a very good set of points, and yes, the industry, especially over the last 2.5 years, with all of the layoffs and all of the very unstable nature.
Not to mention
things.
Intel just laying off another 500 people.
I mean, yeah, every day, right?
It really is every day, and every year is a new record.
Yeah.
For those. So coming together, uniting, and being able to communicate, that's such a huge value. It's so massive. Now, how does Boston Indies operate when it comes to enabling communication, not just in get-togethers like we have here, but over the course of the regular year, everyday business?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
I mean, the two main things are, we maintain a Slack channel where people come and are able to talk sort of day to day and share screenshots or post builds of their game to share with each other. We run a coffee hour every Friday morning at 8:30. That's another chance to just kind of talk about what you're working on, and if you have any sort of questions that you want to throw out to other people that are on the call, you can toss them out and usually get some pretty good answers. But really, we don't try to we're all volunteer. We don't have a ton of a ton of staff or anything, so we try to focus really on just creating the community and then letting people sort of take it from there.
Very good. Now, speaking of bringing people together, how can an indie dev join Boston Indies? How can they get involved?
Oh yeah, I mean, super easy. Go to bostonindies.com. You can go to meetup.com/BostonGameDev. There's no real prerequisite for joining. We really welcome everyone, hobbyists, academics, professional indies. Anyone's welcome to, even if you've never made a game and you're just curious, everyone's free to come and hang out and ask questions and see what's going on.
Very good. Now, any other organizations that you participate in that also bring game developers together?
I used to. This is kind of a very specific one. There's a podcast called Idle Thumbs that I'm also sort of a community manager is probably too generous a term, but I used to run game jams for them for quite a bit. We have a bunch of communities here in Boston. Boston Postmortem is probably the other biggest one. I don't know. That's probably really it.
Well, you were mentioning earlier before the interview that you're president.
Oh, yes. Okay, great. Answer my question for me. Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate that. Leading question. Boston Game Dev, so I'm also the president of Boston Game Dev, which is the nonprofit organization that is putting on this event. Boston Game Dev itself doesn't really put on a lot of events. Specifically, we're more like the sort of fiscal sponsor of the other groups that I mentioned, Game Audio Boston, Boston Indies, Boston Postmortem, Boston Godot to some extent. So I don't know. I just meetup.com/Boston Game Dev. That's where everything is.
But it's still, especially, this is kind of what I wanted to highlight, that kind of organization does help create stability.
Oh yeah.
In the industry, and that's something, and I think we can all agree, has been sorely lacking.
Yeah, and I think especially with with all these groups that are volunteer run, the how many events are being run and who's running them, it really waxes and wanes. There's been years where it felt like no one was running indies, and I felt like maybe it was just going to disappear. Or same with Boston Postmortem, the board would shrink to 1 or 2 active people, and you just didn't know if it was going to stick around. So part of the goal of Boston Game Dev as an organization is just to make things a little easier for people. If we're able to hold a little bit of money and help people pay for venues and that kind of stuff, it just makes it less of a financial burden on the organizers, and then hopefully means that things are a little bit more sort of even keeled going forward.
Sure, absolutely. Now to kind of wrap things up here, is there anything you want to make sure we highlight, anything that you want to highlight for our viewers, our listeners?
We have a couple exciting events coming up, and the big one is
especially in Boston here. So yes.
Especially for folks who've never made a game before or are interested in doing it, we're running Global Game Jam for the first time in January 24th. We'll be in Kendall Square at Foundry. I think game jams are if you've never made a game before, it's just the best way to get into it, right? Low pressure, make a thing in 2 days. If it doesn't go great, then not a huge time loss. Maybe pick up a couple skills. Global Game Jam also historically has been a great place for like folks that have never made games before to sort of pair up with like established industry professionals or like hobbyist indies with a lot of experience and get to like collaborate and work together really closely on a game. So it's a really great way to kind of get into making games.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said that is that's at Foundry at Kendall Square.
Yeah.
And then what date did you say?
January 24th.
And how can people participate in that?
Oh, that's a great question.
I go for the details.
If you go to globalgamejam.org and look up Boston Game Dev, I'm pretty sure that's where it is.
It's listed there. Okay.
Yeah. We don't have it. We don't have like a direct link or anything.
No, that's fair. That's fair. That's why I asked.
Google around, people can figure it out. Or of course, our Slack channel is slack.bostongamedev.org. Folks can also just hop on there and come say hi. And we've posted some links to it in there too.
There we go. Alrighty. Anything else you want to mention to our folks?
No.
We're good.
I'm sure I'm forgetting something because I always do, but that seems about right.
For Boston Indies then, and many other organizations that he mentioned, Chris, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.